let's take a look at this real quick. If this like offers any like... Actually, yeah, let's talk about this real quick. So the question is, what are common grammatical mistakes native speakers make? I have talked about a few of these topics in my Klugscheißen mit Katja videos that are all in German. But let's point out maybe like 3 really, really common ones. Commonly, generally speaking, mistakes that are really, really typical and common with native speakers tend to be errors that non-native speakers don't make, at least not until they're really, really deeply immersed in the language's culture. So if you're like constantly around English speakers, German speakers, whatever, and you're constantly talking to native speakers, you're gonna end up picking up errors that they make, even maybe intentionally, because it then ironically starts sounding more native, because, you know, if a lot of people make the same mistakes, it becomes part of the speech culture. This is because the source of errors are different between native speakers and non-native speakers. With non-native speakers, most of the mistakes you make are going to be caused by your native language interfering with your learning, right? So, das and das, particularly after a comma in both cases. So this is a writing error, because obviously in spoken language, these are going to sound exactly the same, which is the biggest part of why this error even happens, because these two sound exactly the same, despite this being a double S and this being a single S, because of German Auslautverhärtung, meaning that regardless of what type of consonant you have at the end of a word, it will be pronounced like a hard consonant, right? So this is not das, it's das. And this, of course, is also das, but this one would be either way because it's 2S. Das is so that, or just that. Beispiel, example, ich weiß das. I know that. Let's keep the so that away. It's not really, that differentiation isn't really important for this case. That, while this just means the, or which or even who, less likely who, but grammatically, this is a very clear thing, because das is an article, or, and this is where the confusion comes in, a relative pronoun. Well, this is a conjunction. This is a conjunction that means that. And it refers to an object. Now, this is kind of tricky because the object, same happens in English, kind of an interesting fun fact, right? The thing that will follow after this das won't be a single word, which is probably usually what we think about when we talk about an object. It's an Objektsatz, so it's a whole sentence that serves as an object. So I could either say, ich weiß das, I know that, in which case das, with one S, is the object. It's the thing that I know. If I then say, ich weiß, dass du mich magst, I know that you like me, then, again, let's color code this, then this gets specified into meaning this, right? So this whole sentence is the thing that I know. So that means das is only ever used to introduce a Nebensatz, a subordinate clause, that is the spelling out of an object. And it's usually combined with thinking or speaking words. So, ich sage, ich weiß, ich denke, ich glaube, ich wünschte, ich wünsche, ich träume, ich schreie, ich rufe, ich, you know. So all of these, like, it's either a performance of speech or it's some sort of thinking process. The das with one S, if it's after a comma, is usually, if not always, I can't think of a counterexample, but I never want to be like 100% about these things, is a Relativpronomen, a relative pronoun, which means that it's one of the words that can introduce a relative clause. So, das Haus, das, I don't know, rot ist. Let's make that black again. Das Haus, das rot ist. The house that is red. So in this case, the das refers back to the house. It's a referential pronoun in this case. And that's really all of the secret. As a non-native speaker, you might look at this and think, what's he? But this is not a matter of not understanding the concepts. This is purely a matter of they both sound the same. And when you mostly, when you learn the language through speaking and hearing it, when you start writing it, you're just going to do this by feeling. This is actually an error that even though, I had never had any trouble understanding this, I don't ever make this mistake when I'm like consciously or focusedly writing a text. But if I'm just like chatting with someone, not really thinking about it, this is a mistake that will slip in sometimes because my brain just trips up. So, fairly common mistake. Next mistake. This is a bit of a regional thing, but it is very prevalent nonetheless. Wie und als. Both of these are words that are used in comparisons. So, ich bin so groß wie du. Ich bin größer als du. I am as tall as you. I am taller than you. That is basically the entire mystery behind it. Even if you've never thought about this in English, you will be able to recognize, at least like intuitively, what the difference is here. Wie und als. The difference is wie is used when we're comparing something that is similar. Similarity. And als is when we're comparing things that are different. That's the whole mystery, which means als follows after things that end in er or after stuff like anders. Anders als du. Unlike you. That's the whole thing, which is why this is a mistake that non-native speakers are never going to make until they interact with particularly Southern German native speakers a lot. Because for some freaking reason, it is well established in the south of Germany for people to say things like, ich bin größer wie du. I am as bigger as you, is what that literally translates to, but people understand it to mean I am bigger than you. What never happens is that people say, ich bin groß als du, trying to say I am as tall as you, but using als. For some reason, this just doesn't happen. So we have an overusage of wie and an underusage of als. I have my theories as to how this happens, but not really worth mentioning. South as in Bavarian? No. South of Germany is not just Bavaria. South Germany is Bavaria, Baden-Württemberg, and arguably even like parts of Rheinland-Pfalz, the Saarland. I guess it always depends on like the perspective that you're speaking from, right? The further north you come from, the more you will consider the South. I would say like the objective South, which is like the lower third. So that will be mostly Bavaria and Baden-Württemberg. Interference from English, because a lot of people are very exposed to English now. Duh. It is debatable how wrong this is, because the more something gets established in the language, the more it becomes a viable option, right? But people say stuff like in 2000 to say in 2000, or let's say 2002, in 2002, in 2002. When in German it should be either no preposition, so just 2002 war ich 25, right? Or Im Jahre, in the year of 2002, I was 25. Oh yeah, Genitiv. Sterben, let's call it that. The death of the genitive. The genitive is the case that is and always has been used the least, especially in spoken language, partly because it leads to some complicated constructions and partly because it's just not triggered by that many things. And because of that, so partly because it's just not used that much in everyday speech, people have started replacing it, which at some point coined the phrase, der Dativ ist dem Genitiv sein Tod, which is a play on this whole thing because it should be der Dativ, Dativ ist der Tod des Genitivs, which of course this is Genitiv, while this is a horrible, horrible, very childlike dative construction that is not correct, but is used again a lot in the South, not exclusively, but I would say you encounter it there more to express possession. So possession is usually expressed using Genitiv. So der Bruder meines Freundes, my friend's brother, meines Freundes is Genitiv. While somebody who knows that friend might say dem Peter sein Freund, the Peter's friend. The Peter his friend is the literal translation. It doesn't work in English at all. It doesn't technically work in German either, but it's used a lot. So the genitive is disappearing in a lot of things. One thing I already mentioned, that's the possession thing, and then another common context is with the preposition wegen, which triggers genitive. One of the rather few prepositions that triggers genitive, meaning if I use wegen, it should be ich habe schlechte Laune, I'm in a bad mood, wegen des Wetters. Des Wetters is genitive, of course. However, because the genitive is chronically underused, people nowadays will often default to saying ich habe schlechte Laune wegen dem Wetter, which is dative. And actually to build on this has recently also started happening with the dative slowly being replaced in more and more instances by the accusative, which horrifies me. And some of the accusative is already getting replaced with a nominative. I don't know if this can be considered like a societal phenomenon yet, but I've noticed it in some movie dubs, which is why this even stuck out to me. We're slowly losing some grammar, interestingly enough. Okay, I do think that's enough for this topic though. Let's move on to the next.